Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your Gradeup MBA channel. Today, we continue our discussion on CAT 2019 VARC. We will be doing CAT 2019 Shift-1, the Part-2 of the paper discussion, which means we will be doing we had done two passages in Part 1. We'll be doing the next two passages. All right. The penguin passage and the uh, folk passage. Good afternoon, Rishi. So, as you know, many students hated the passage on folk music, and we're going to look at it and see why it was not that difficult at all. But of course, in the exam, the stress levels are different. So, and even an easy passage sometimes looks difficult. So, the key is focus, follow the strategy no matter what, and you will not make mistakes. All right. So we'll continue with the same method. That means I will show you each slide for 45 seconds to a minute. All right. Rishi, so you had taken CAT 2019. It was bizarre, says Sandeep. That was the verdict from a lot of students. So now I will show you the same passages which you considered bizarre and tough. And when we read it, we'll find that yeah, ये इतना भी मुश्किल नहीं था, right? That's what we're doing now, Sandeep. I would read a passage fast. It takes me around 2.5 to 3 minutes. Let's say even if you take 5 minutes, read the passage once quickly but thoroughly, and then read the question. Go back to the part of the passage from which the question has been asked. Read it, cross-check the answer, and then mark the answer option. Sandeep, as easy as that. The key to doing well in reading comprehension is how well you read. So, shall we start? When we start, you will know the strategy. All right? आसान है, देख लेना. आज बहुत आसान लगेगा. And then you will tell me. Let's start. Okay? All right. I will give you 45 seconds to a minute to read the slide, and then at the end, I'm timing you. We'll move to the next slide. Okay? After we finish the entire passage, I will summarize it for you, and I want you to summarize along with me mentally. All right? Okay, start. Before we start the class, Gradeup Super, the super subscription, which gives you access to all our MBA courses. That means CAT, IFT, ZAT, whatever courses, long term, short term, any course that is there under the MBA exam category, with the subscription, you have access to it. And that subscription is 1 month, 3 months, 12 months, 24 months. So they're 12 and 18 months actually. All right. So there is a 25% off on that. The super itself is a discounted subscription offer, and on that we have a 25% off from 7th to 9th October only. So please call our counselors, find out more about this Gradeup Super and enroll now. All right. Okay. Now let us start. Attempted 1 RC in that. Okay, Rishi, let's see if you can do this. 45 seconds. Even if you've read it before, don't try to remember what you read. Put that behind you. We'll start with a clean slate. All right, 45 seconds to a minute. All right, we're going to do the penguin one first, as Rishi pointed out. All right, start reading now. All right, let's move to the next slide. Okay, next. Oh, that's it. All right, short and sweet passage. Next is a question. So when you read it, all right, now you summarize it with me. These are the points that you need to remember by the time you finish the passage. Scientists recently discovered that emperor penguins have an unusual technique for surviving the daily chill. All right. The birds minimize heat loss. This is the point that you need. They minimize heat loss by keeping the outer surface of their plumage below the temperature of the surrounding air. At the same time, the penguin's thick plumage feather covering insulates their body and keeps it toasty, warm. The researchers analyzed thermographic images taken roughly over a month during June 2008, and during that period the average air temperature was 0.32 degree Fahrenheit. Majority of the plumage covering the penguin's body was even colder than 0.32. Their feet was 1.76 degree Fahrenheit, but the plumage, the feather covering on their head, chest and backs was far lower. See, minus. All right, so overall, nearly the entire outer surface of the penguin's body was below freezing at all times, except for their eyes, beaks, and feet. The scientists also used a computer simulation to determine how much heat was lost or gained from each part of the body. And they discovered that by keeping their outer surface below air temperature, the birds might paradoxically be able to draw very slight amounts of heat from the air around them. The key to their trick is the difference between two types of heat transfer, radiation and convection. The penguins lose internal body heat to surrounding air through radiation, all right, just as we do on a cold day. But because their bodies are warmer than the surrounding air, so heat gradually radiates outward, moving from warmer to colder. So to maintain body temperature while losing heat, the penguin rely on food. But they have another strategy. What do? Their outer plumage is colder than the surrounding air. And because their outer plumage is colder than the surrounding air, the transfer of heat via convection happens. What happens? The surrounding air is warmer than their body, so the surrounding air gives little bit of warmth to their body. It actually donates some heat back and cycles away at a slightly colder temperature. Most of this heat doesn't probably really count or doesn't make it through the plumage, but at least it cuts through the heat loss. All right, hello Shashank. So, did you understand so far? If you understood this, then this was easy. The last part he says is that they have unusually demanding breeding season. So, they need every bit of the warmth because for breeding season, during the breeding season, they trek 75 miles and male penguins do not eat anything during this period of 64 days. Therefore, they have to conserve as much heat, as many calories as possible. All right, question 1. In the last sentence of paragraph 3, I'll take you back to it. Slightly warmer air and at a slightly colder temperature refers to what and what? What is the slightly warmer air he is referring to? And what is at a slightly colder temperature? It was a factual passage. Therefore, it is actually a very different kind of passage for cat. Very few cat passages look like this. This looks more like a GMAT passage to me. All right. So, what did he say? The last sentence of paragraph 3. Okay, this is paragraph 1. This is paragraph 2. This is paragraph 3. He says where did he say? Slightly warmer air comes into contact with the plumage and then slightly cycles away at a slightly colder temperature. So what is he referring to? Now, even if you knew the answer, I'm showing you what you need to do. So the slightly warmer air is warmer air surrounding the penguins. when the penguin body temperature, plumage temperature is lower than the surrounding air. So therefore the surrounding air is the slightly warmer air. Why does it go off at a slightly colder temperature? It donates that. So it goes off at a slightly lower temperature. So which option is 11? A. The air inside the body temperature kept warm because of metabolism. The air inside is the slightly warmer air and the fall in the temperature of the body. No. The cold Antarctic air which becomes warmer because of the heat radiated out from the penguins. No. The slightly warmer air is the air surrounding the penguin and which is higher than that of the plumage, and the fall in temperature is on the same Antarctic air after it has transmitted some heat to the plumage. All of you got that? Rishi, Shashank, all of you got that? Why is it? Understood? It's option D. This is a factual passage, easy passage, short passage, except one question where the students made a mistake. But this was the third passage in the series, right? That was probably the problem. All right, all of you got D? Okay, let's look at 12. Why does the author use the word paradoxically in the passage? Again, when he asks you about the use of a word, quickly read through the options, but always cross-check the passage. Go back to the passage where he uses the term paradoxically. Keeping their body colder helps the penguins keep their plumage warmer. Keeping a part of their body colder helps penguins keep their bodies warmer. Heat gain through radiation happens despite heat loss through convection. Actually, it's the other way around. Heat loss through radiation happens despite heat gain through convection. What is the paradox in it? Therefore, the answer is B. But let's go back and see why does he say paradoxically. First, where does he say paradoxically? Which part does he say paradoxically? Right at the beginning? Where has he used the word paradoxically? Search it for me. Okay, I could not find it. Alright, but what is the paradox? That the penguins have kept their body colder and as a result their body becomes warmer. Alright, they lose heat through radiation but hardly any. Yeah, it is in the second slide but I couldn't find it. They lose heat through radiation but they gain back heat through yes, I read the entire passage. Sandeep is asking me, what's your strategy? I read the entire passage quickly and thoroughly, Sandeep, in 3.5 minutes, sometimes 2.5 minutes, and then I attempt the passage. There's no point reading the questions because all the questions are inferential questions. There may be one which is direct but doesn't help. So I read the whole passage, then look at the questions, then go back to the passage. I know where I would like, where I'm likely to find the answer. So I go back and I cross check the answer and then I mark my option. So actually take more time in eliminating the options. I take more time in eliminating the options and I know that I'm reading the passage, certain parts of a passage a second time while reading it. Alright, question 13. All of the following would negate the findings of the study except. What is the finding of the study in the first place? That the penguin's plumage is kept at a lower temperature from the surrounding atmosphere. Except for their feet, eyes and beak, the rest of their plumage is normally kept below freezing. Right? This is what he says. No, it is not time consuming, Sandeep. Let's answer this question. You get a passage of hardly 350 to 500 words. How long will it take you to read it? If you are in a hurry to answer the questions, you make a mistake. The key is, what is the point of reading fast when you don't understand? You have to read the whole passage, then read the question and go back to the part of the passage from which a question has been asked. Just cross check the answer and mark it. The passage will not take you more than 3 minutes to read if you read it the right way. Alright, answer this question. Will A negate the findings? The penguins' plumage were made of a material that did not allow any heat through convection and transmission radiation. Yes, because he says they lose heat through radiation, but they gain it back through convection. And if he says that the penguin doesn't do either of this, then the findings are negated. The average air temperature recorded during June 2008 was -10, in which case the penguin's plumage was at a higher temperature. He has given the penguin's plumage temperatures as -1, minus something. So -10 is colder than -1. Therefore, B will also negate the findings of the research. C. The temperature of the plumage on head, chest and back was plus 1.84, 7.24. Definitely it negates it. Yes, Aladdin was done last time. Therefore, the answer is D. Why is it D? Even after negating, how can D be correct? The average temperature of the feet was 7.27, 2.76. The author says that the feet are the warmest part of the penguin's body. There he said it was 1.72 or something, even if it's 2.76. His findings were more, their findings are mostly based on plumage being colder than the outside atmosphere, not the feet. Feet, eyes and beaks are excluded. Therefore, D would not negate. So the answer is D. Alright. Yes, in the last session we finished Aladdin, Rishi. Alright. Okay, question 13D. All of you are happy with it? Okay, let's look at question 14. Which one is responsible for emperor penguins losing body heat? Food metabolism, reproduction process, plumage, and thermal convection. Food is always gives warmth, so it cannot be food metabolism. Thermal convection is the only way. No, topophilia isn't done. Thermal convection is the way the penguins get back a little temperature, a little heat. Air outside colder, when it comes in contact with the plumage, it gives a little heat. Therefore, it cannot be C. It cannot be plumage. Reproduction process, because these poor male penguins walk also, trek a long way, right? Therefore, it is B. Okay. Definitely a passage which you should have done and got all your questions right. Many people got this wrong. Question 13. I do not know why. Alright, now the next passage again was one of the passages that students did not like. We will find out why. I consider this in slot 1, this was the toughest passage only because the topic is something that, and that the language is slightly old British language. That is one that puts off most students. And the second is the topic is not something that you and I are really happy with. But otherwise, there's nothing to it if you read it the same way that you read any other passage. So let's try it now. Again, I'll give you a minute for each slide. Read, okay? So Sashank, if I giving you a minute for each slide, then in 3 slides or 4 slides, you are reading the passage in 4 minutes. It's not a lot of time, is it? So let's start. Yeah, this is folk. Start reading. All right. All right. Next slide. We will summarize it. Normally, what you need to do is restate it in a way that you understand what it's saying. Shall we restate it? First part, free of the taint of manufacture. That phrase in particular is heavily loaded with the ideology of what Victorian socialist William Morris called the anti-scrape or anti-capitalist conservationism that solaced itself with the vision of a pre-industrial golden age. Now, I'm not going to tell you the meanings, I'll tell it to you later. So basically, you remember that free of taint of manufacture is what William Morris called his anti-capitalist conservatism, which he calls conservationism, and that had the vision of a pre-industrial golden age. That means these people believed that the industrial age is bad. Pre-industrial golden age. Golden age was before industrialization happened. So these people believed in that. That's what you understand. That's enough. Next, in Britain, folk may often appear a cozy fossilized form. What is a fossil? Something very ancient. So folk may look like a fossilized form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk has always been contested territory. It has always been controversial. Folk is normally regarded as a fossilized form, as something which is ancient. But if you really look at it, whether you talk of the debate about folk, who's to sing it, who's to dance it, forget all that. It has always been controversial and contested territory. Lot of questions on who has the right to sing it, who has the right to dance it, who has the right to collect it, and things like that. Easy. Second paragraph. In our own time, though, that is, he's talking of now, the word folk has achieved the rare distinction of occupying both fashionable and unfashionable status simultaneously. Folk is both fashionable and unfashionable. What way? Just as the effusive floral prints of radical William Morris now cover genteel sofas. Okay, radical floral prints, effusive, loud floral prints now cover genteel sofas. Genteel means sophisticated, stylish. What was once considered radical, those effusive floral prints are now part of everyone's sofa and decor in sophisticated houses. Same way, revolutionary intentions of many folk historians has led to music that is regarded as conservative. Revolutionary music has now come to be regarded as conservative. So what was at one time considered radical, just like those floral prints on sofas, now is considered conservative and therefore accepted. And yet, folk is hip again. Hip means stylish, current, influencing artists, clothing, furniture, everything. Folk is a sonic shabby chic containing elements of the uncanny, eerie, something which is unnatural, as well as antique veneer, something which has the smell and the finish of antique, of old times. A whiff of Britain's heathen dark ages. You get a slight hint of Britain's dark ages. So what is folk? Both hip, very current, and also very ancient in terms of all this. Alright, that's it. First two paras done. Read the next two paras and simplify whatever you understand in your own words. Start. All right. If you don't know the words, you understand it in the context in which it is used. You don't have to know the words. But in for classes, I tell students, after you finish reading the passage, go back and look at a dictionary. Go back, look at your phone, look at a dictionary, find out the meaning of the words. But when you don't know the meaning of the word should not appear like a speed breaker. That word, you should understand it in the context in which it is used. Guess kar lo meaning. That's more than enough. So let's read this. Says, so what did we learn in the first two? He says one is William Morris anti-scrape movement he started. He believed he had visions of this pre-industrial golden age in Britain. Earlier, folk had this appeared like a fossilized ancient version of music, but folk has achieved a rare distinction of being both fashionable and unfashionable, and he tells you how, right? And then next paragraph he says, Cecil Sharp believed that folk songs are in constant transformation. They are constantly changed. It's in a perpetual change, a state of renewal. How one man sings a song, another copies it, changing what he doesn't like. And that's how the songs change. So he compared a folk song to an acorn. Each time an acorn falls, it's like a seed and it grows into another tree. So there is a new form that is created every time somebody sings a folk song. But there is tension in newness. But because of this constant change, it also brings with it tension. And he tells you what kind of tensions. Next, in the 60s, purists, people who are very focused, aisa hi hona chahiye. They were suspicious of folk songs in rock idioms, in the framework of rock. Electrification, because rock electrifies it. Electrification, however, comes in many forms. And then he says the second wave of folk revival is the vital spark. Then he talks about the how folk progressed. All right, he says the golden age of folk was between 1969 to 1971, and then he says even that period has just become one more era. The idea of a folk tradition being confined exclusively to oral transmission has now become very loose because we have recorded music. All right, and so folk memories are made through recorded music. The second paragraph in this slide, you just remember to read it quickly. Whatever you understand, you understand. What you don't struggle with it. Understood? All right, let's move to the next paragraph. Oh, khatam. So it is not at all hard when you ask what is it about. First paragraph talks about some William Morris, calls folk music a fossilized form. Second paragraph says it is both fashionable and not fashionable. It is like those big floral prints which were radical at one time, which are now there in every sophisticated drawing room or sofa. Just like that, music that was once considered revolutionary is now considered conservative, but folk is fashionable again because it has all these elements. And then, second, he said, in the third paragraph, he describes somebody called Cecil Sharp who says it's constantly changing. Every time someone sings a folk song, he's changing. He sings whatever he wants, and what he doesn't like, he does not keep it. And so it's always changing, and this newness brings with it tension because purists were not happy because of rock electrification of folk music. They did not like, but he said it happens in many ways. So basically what has happened is that folk tradition was rediscovered so many times. Second paragraph, he names some people. We don't know those people. It doesn't matter. He calls 1969 to 71 the golden age of folk music. And then he says the idea that folk music should only be orally transmitted is also not there anymore because of recorded music. But itna samajh mein aaya, that's enough. Now let's look at a question. If the question asks something from this New Jerusalem revolutionary, then I'll go back to the passage and read those lines. Otherwise, I feel I have understood the passage as far as I have to understand it. If you understand even 50% of the passage like this, you don't have to feel scared. It cannot be vague, Rishi. You should not think of it as vague. 50% भी समझ में आ गया. Let's look at the questions. The author says that folk may often appear a cozy fossilized form because. So what are the cozy? Comfortable. Fossilized, like a fossil. What are the two words you'd associate it with? Ancient. But he also says it, let's go back. He also says, but when you look at look at it more, but it also gave you a vision of a pre-industrial golden age. Okay, so cozy fossilized form belonging to a pre-industrial golden age, something which is old, ancient, of the past. Which one would work at it? Obviously A, of its nostalgic association with the pre-industrial golden age past. Second one, it has been arrogated, taken over forcibly by various political and cultural purposes. Has he said anything about political purpose? Second, it's a sonic shabby chic with an antique vignette. That's what he calls it, but it does not answer this question. Why does the author call it a cozy fossilized form? So this is a case of a sentence being taken from the passage and put in the answer options when it has no relevance to the question, right? The notion of folk has led to several debates and disagreements, true, but that does not, that cozy fossilized thing don't lead to disagreements and debates. So D also is another fact given in the passage but irrelevant to the question. So the answer we want is there in A. Alright, so question 1 done, ek chakka lag gaya. Let's look at question 16. All of the following are causes for the plurality and diversity within British folk tradition except. Alright, now let's quickly look at the options before we go back to the passage. The fluidity of folk forms owing to their history of oral mode of transmission could be a reason for its diversity. Because the folk forms had an oral tradition, oral mode of transmission, each person would make it different. I heard something, you heard something, your recollection of what you heard and sang would be different from mine. So that's why there is diversity, makes sense. Paradoxically, folk forms are both popular and unpopular. So what? So what? This could be the answer. That British folk forms can be traced to the remote past of the country because they are so ancient. So that shows plurality and diversity. It continues to have traces of pagan influences, heathen past, right? So pagan influences, yes. The the ancient religions different from original ones are called pagan religions. So a pagan is somebody who doesn't follow uh, the something that is mainstream. So somebody who's primitive is called pagan. Somebody who follows very ancient traditions can be called pagan. So A, C, and D explain the diversity, but B is not. So you don't even have to you don't have to go back to the passage to know it's B. So far 15, 16, both the questions have been good. When the passage is tough, the questions are generally easy and students normally get this block that passage is tough. Passage is not tough, it was different. Alright. At a conference on folk forms, the author of the passage is least likely to agree with which of the views. What is the author's views on folk music? It's ancient, it's diverse, it's plural, it's in a state of constant flux, right? It's both popular and unpopular, it's both fashionable and unfashionable, and so many things. Yes, these are his views. So, which one is he least likely to agree with? In 17. The power of folk resides in its contradictory ability to influence and be influenced by the present while remaining rooted in the past. He would agree with it. He says that it is both chic, now a shabby chic, he calls it, and also hip and chic. It is also something which is, so he is likely to agree with it. Folk forms, despite their archaic origins, ancient origins, remain relevant in contemporary times. Is likely to agree with this also. It has its origin in the past. It has a whiff of British Dark Ages, all that he says. At the same time, even now it's being played, so it has relevance even now. Folk forms, in their ability to constantly adapt to their changing world, exhibit an unusual poise and homogeneity with each change, the author says. Homogeneity, will the author agree with the homogeneity of with each change? Each change, he says, it becomes diverse, it renews itself. It is this newness that makes it that brings in tension. So he will not agree that folk form has homogeneity, uniformity in the way it is evolving. So he won't agree. Now just let's look at D. When C is the right answer, also look at D. The plurality and democratizing influence of folk form emanate from the improvisation its practitioners bring to it. This is the paragraph that we did not read carefully. He basically talks of Dylan and this and that, and all of them also falling back on folk. So D has been mentioned. Therefore, the answer is not likely to agree with the homogeneity of folk forms. The first, so therefore it is C. Alright, so 3 questions done now, and all 3 questions were easy. We can't call them difficult. Let's look at the next question. Why do you think, what are the purpose? Remember, the purpose for the reference to William Morris and his effusive floral prints. Just like William Morris and his effusive floral prints now occupy genteel sofas, so also music that was revived by by revivalists and radical people led to music which is now considered conservative, he says. So, what is the purpose of that William Morris floral prints? The pervasive influence of folk on contemporary art, culture, and fashion. He draws an analogy, just like the Morris prints are found on sofas, same way this music. So, it is not talking about William Morris's and the influence of folk on contemporary art. That what was once regarded radical in folk can be seen as conservative or conformist. That's what he's talking about. Okay, that what was once did, you don't deride the gentle, all right, genteel, sophisticated, polished. That despite its archaic origin, folk remains nothing to do. William Morris's floral prints have nothing to do with archaic origin, so irrelevant. Therefore, the answer is B. All of you okay with B? All right, good. Last question of the set. Which of the following about folk revivalism in the of the 40s and 60s cannot be inferred from the passage? This is where we did not read the passage carefully. All right, we will go back and see the 40s and 60s. Okay. Ha. Let's read this passage. Read this paragraph now, because he's asking us about folk revivalism of the 40s and 60s. Here also. From here. Purists were suspicious of folk songs recast in rock idioms. Why? Electrification comes in many forms. So he has only indirectly told you. Why were they suspicious? Because of rock idiom means electrification, and purists were suspicious of electrification. But electrification comes in many forms. Okay, for example, Vaughan, Williams, and Halls were thunderbolts of inspiration from Oriental mysticism, angular modernism, and the body blow of the First World War, as well as input from the rediscovered folk tradition itself. So these guys took their inspiration from Oriental mysticism and from folk tradition. Then the second wave of revivalism was communism's dream of a post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. They thronged to folk clubs, the lyrical freedom of Dylan, the unchained melodies of psychedelia created conditions of their own rock age. All right, and it has become for fashionable emulation, and pastiche is nothing but copying somebody's folk form. So let's look at what are the options. Freedom and rebellion were popular themes during the second wave. Yes. Communism. Then he talks of Bob Dylan's Unchained Melodies. Electrification of music would not have happened without the influence of rock music. He didn't say that. Purists were suspicious of electrification of folk music through rock music, but not that if it hadn't been for rock music, electrification wouldn't have happened. So the answer is B. Let's look at C. Even though it led to folk rock's golden age, it wasn't entirely free from critique, means criticism. Maybe it reinforced Cecil Sharp's observation about folk's constant transformation. Yes, so the answer is B. All right, so was the passage that tough? You look at it like this, no, not tough. How much time did you take reading it? Actually, you read it for a minute, each of the slides. How many slides were there? 2 slides. So each slide 1 minute, 1 minute, right? Okay. Even if you took 2 minutes, 4 minutes you read the passage. If you read the passage in 4 minutes, took 4 more minutes to answer the 4 questions, you're set. So the key is do not panic if the passage is difficult, looks difficult, because if the passage looks difficult, the questions will be easy. The passage is difficult for the question setter also. You need to remember that. All right. Okay. My name is Savitri Krishnamurty. Many of you know me. I have been teaching for the last many years. I won't tell you how many though. You'll guess my age. Many of my students are all not just past CAT, they are in very high positions everywhere. They send me all pictures. Ma'am, I am A में ऐसा है, B में ऐसा है, C में ऐसा. I keep asking them what's happening and things like that. Sometimes they write asking me for help. Ma'am, book review चाहिए. All right. So yes, many years teaching students for CAT. I love books, dogs, and cricket, not necessarily in that order. We have certain upcoming courses, CAT 2021, for those of you who are interested in CAT 2021. Even if you are taking CAT 2020 and you have friends who want to take 21, do tell, because we have a batch which has just started. Join a boot camp with 100 percentilers, each one of them. And there is a VARC 100 percentiler, Vikrant Katuria, who is doing a great job. Do attend that boot camp. And we will also be, of course, this is our series of previous year's question papers that we are discussing with you. We are having a special course for non-CAT exams at IIFT SNAP that has started, and GK and current affairs, right? Kajal, very difficult to tell what's my favorite book. Probably To Kill a Mockingbird, and Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I've read that book many times, so probably that. Yeah. All right. Again, find out all about Gradeup Super. If you haven't taken it yet, do take it. It gives you access to all courses and mock tests for one-time payment, and that's a huge benefit. Now there is a 25% discount going from 7th to 9th October. So do take it and call our counselors if you want more information on how exactly it works, what are the advantages I get. It's there for 3, 6 and 18 months, but you can take it. You can ask them what is there for me in it and see if there is a course customized for you. Right? So call our counselors, because this gives you access not just to the courses, it gives you access to the doubt clearing classes and a report card. Every time you take a mock, you will know how you have fared in the mock vis-a-vis the other students who've taken the mock for the same category, right? These are our free series available on the Gradeup app. So make sure you've downloaded the latest version of the Gradeup app, arithmetic QA and mini boot camp and arithmetic and permutation. What I like about the free series is they are short classes. So they help you remember things better. I always find it more effective to take shorter classes. Faculty, somebody called us the Dream 11. If you see, we are 11 of us. There 12 now? No, 11. All right, Pranav, Jatin, Vikas, Vijay, Ashish Tiwari, all fantastic teachers. Vijay Jha is not just a fantastic mentor, he's also a fantastic test taker. So, the person we go to always for strategy. His head for numbers and his memory for question papers is immense. He can tell you, if my memory serves me right and you know it has served him right, he'll say in CAT 2017 this happened, in 2018 this happened, 2010 this happened. So, oh my God, all right. But he is the person who is going to be guiding you on the strategy. All right. There are lot of people who've joined us now doing a great job. Sanojam, of course, has been there for a while. He and I do take a lot of your VARC sessions. Anand Johari, Ajay Saxena, 100 percentilers in quant. Don't tell them I and quant are zero. I'm zero at quant. Tapesh Saxena, one of the most popular teachers on Gradeup. Uh, the story about him, and I believe it's true, it's not a story, is that if a student sends a doubt at 2, Tapesh would answer it. Vikrant Kathuria, look at that magic thing which says 100 percentile in VARC. There's another person I know personally who's got 100 percentage and percentile in VARC. Somebody in my family, very close to me, but I didn't teach him, my own son. So yes, it's possible to get 100 percentile in VARC, and I hope one of you does it and shows the world that it can be done. Okay, people say, "Kaise milega?" Milega. Full marks bhi milta hai. So we are there, the Dream 11, to help you through your CAT preparations. You have to work. We don't have a magic wand that helps you. You work hard, send us your doubts, ask us your questions, and we are there with you. All right, we are there for you. We are there with you. All the best for your preparations. Prep with Gradeup, prep smart, score better, go Gradeup. All right. Read Rebecca, read My Cousin Rachel, also Kajal. That's another good book. All right, guys. If you like the video, if you like our sessions, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and press that like button. That feedback is very important for all of us. If you press that one like, there's 1,000 views and 5 likes, and I'm like, kya hua, kya galat kiya maine? So you need to, if you like it, just spend that little time to press that like button. Subscribe to the channel so that we keep getting you more courses. Press the bell so that you get notifications of all the courses, and we have a whole lot of courses waiting for you. Each time I look at my schedule, I say, oh my God, so many. They're coming up with all YouTube classes. The last lap for CAT, right? We've got hardly a few days. So we're going all out. I hope you are going all out through YouTube classes, through free app classes, and of course our courses. All right, so make sure you take full advantage of all this. All I am asking in return is press the like if you like the class, and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with your friends if you liked it. All right, guys, I'll see you very soon for part 3, which would be probably the last part of 2019. I'm not sure what is left. All right. Okay. Take care, all of you. Bye-bye.